All right, cool. All right, let's just do the intro over again. How's it going, everyone? Good evening, good late night, depending on most likely late night where you're watching. How's everyone doing? It is Thursday. We're getting ready to wrap up the week here. So I just want to just go over a couple things with you guys and just give you guys a little update what I'm looking at. And from there, this is going to be more of a ask me anything questions. So all right, what's the question session? So if you guys have any questions for me, I'm going to do my best to keep an eye on the chat here as well as the Discord. And yeah, from there, if you guys feel free to, ask me anything during at any time regarding any coin you might want to look at, questions about setups, trades, etc. And let's go ahead and get it started. So, since the last time we talked, there was a dump that happened. And finally, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I was waiting for a larger move to happen. Even though in the grand scheme of things, we're looking here at the 4 hour, it's not doesn't seem like that big of a move. Um, it definitely helps kind of show me at least a bigger picture of what could be happening. And perhaps maybe if we can sustain support above this region here, I think these are going to look good. Um, everyone and their mother, it seems like everyone's expecting lower lows or, crazy lows like 13, 12K, 10K. Um, I'm here to say that that is still entirely possible. But I have to go with what price gives me, go based off the setups that price shows me that, hey, it could be bullish based on this setup if it maintains above a certain level, or if we're looking at the other direction, hey, we have a bearish setup here. But in this case, we're currently testing this low or the previous low here at about 17,600. So if BTC can remain above there, I'm definitely going to be a little bit more bullish. Now the question is this going to be just a retesting move up to the upside here to we kind of retest the local areas, or is just going to be an overall market changing setup? And let's go over the possibilities of what it could not be. I'm excited. To me, this is a good sign, but we'll have to see how things pan out in the future. So first thing we got to look at is focusing on this area price action here. All right. Within this squared area, we have to, look at it and see, okay, do I see a ABC within the larger bear market? And actually today marks the 1 year anniversary of when the bear market started. So guys, we've been going through this for a year now. It's I just realized that now as I'm looking at it. Yeah, the 10th. So let's go ahead and talk about the setup here. So I personally see an A to a B to a C here, which creates one A wave. We have an A to a B to a C here, which creates a B wave. And now that we finally got a major decision, or at least a move to the downside to complete a much larger setup, to me, this is definitely a much larger completed A to a B to a C. Now, this is what I really like to see as a textbook ABC, I guess, sequence or pattern or setup, depending on what how you look at this. But based off of what I see, this is a much larger completed A to a B to a C. And now, with an ABC within the C, obviously, I don't like to necessarily point directly at one direction, but as I have to go with, I have to go with what price tells me and what the setup shows me. And for me, wow, I almost said something really bad there. The setup shows me, that if BTC wants to remain above or can remain above 17,600, I'm definitely going to look at this as a much larger completed setup. And it's also the possibility of a much larger, wow, I am stuttering all over the place today. I am so sorry, guys. A much larger reversal structure. So let me just mark that out for you here. All right. And from there, let's go down to a smaller time frame. Let me show you guys how I was able to come up with this possibility, as well as show you guys how I was able to play it. So primarily, if you guys have been watching the streams for the past, I would say a couple weeks or so, I would say a month. I would say probably like around this area. Yeah, I would say about a month, maybe almost 2. I've been kinda looking at this as a possible Adam and Eve. Now, unfortunately, it did not play out, but I wasn't necessarily banking on it just because primarily, what I do here is I look for ABCs, and I'll show you guys what the ABC setups within this portion of price action looks like. So, keeping the Adam and Eve in mind, I was looking at this low down here as a potential bottom or the potential bottom. And from there, I kind of have to put the pieces of the puzzle together, or at least put together this area price action to show me what is the possible next setup, or what is this a part of, or what structure is forming. Kind of ideally looking at certain areas of price action and trying to determine um, if the overall trend, or at least this section of the trend, is completed. So for me, I see an A to a B to a C to a sharp B, and then this is going to be an A to a B to a C. So to me, this is one completed structure. I'll just highlight the low again one more time. And this is going to complete a much larger A. All right. And from here, we do have an A, B, C to an A, B, C to a B, and then a lower low to complete a C to form a B. And then I was kind of hoping that we would get up to that 25,328 region before putting in a much larger reversal to the downside. That was what I was banking on for the last, say, month or so, almost 2 months. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. But we also did talk about variations and different possibilities of what could happen. For me, one of the primary variations I was looking at for, I would say, the last couple of weeks is this following here. We had an A to a B to a C. All right, which it's the same as the first setup, or the first type of, I guess, sequence of waves that I mentioned before. And from there, we also have an A to a B to a C here. All right, I'll go ahead and then just paint a picture for you guys of what that looks like here. A, B, C, and then A, B, C. And then at this point, I did mention, hey guys, the possibility of this going up further. For me, I was kind of not hoping, but I was shown that the probabilities to the upside was a little higher based off of the setup here. But obviously, nothing's guaranteed. One of the things I did say is, if this does not hold, this larger structure definitely can show that we can come down and put it in a lower low. And basically, I was making the conclusion that if we did dump, most likely we're going to come down past this level, or at least test it, but most likely break that level. And then from there, we can kind of go back to the drawing board. And like I mentioned before, look at this more as a much larger completed A to a B to a C, which did happen. Was it my main idea? No, but unfortunately, things don't work out sometimes the way you expect it. But if you plan ahead, you can definitely catch these type of moves. So for me, as of right now, I have to look at this as, if BTC, as of right now, even right now, it's currently trying to fight this area. If BTC can remain above that 17,600, I think things are going to look good. I would like to see a decision made sooner than later, whether we come up, push through, and show that it's a possible completed reversal, or if we get rejected, because obviously there's different possibilities of what could happen. I'm primarily not too focused on what is going on in between. The only thing I can say is that maybe we're forming some sort of resistance above here, and we can possibly continue lower. I'm not, that's not anything ABC related. That's just kind of me when I'm, something like that, and then continue lower as well. We easily can find BTC fighting in this region here. So as of right now, I have my main level I'm going to long, and let me go over the short that I was able to capitalize off of, just in case this was the move. Now, I mentioned before that this is all an A, B, C, and then this was an A to a B to a C. Now, to me, how I view this area price action. Now, the reason why I'm focusing on this particular area is because this section, or this low, indicates that, to me, this is a much larger completed trend. So now I really don't have to worry about this until we can get a little bit more established of what the next possible moves are. For now, I was, or at least at the time, I was focusing primarily on this area price action. Now, when I do that, I see an A to an A, B, C to a B, and then a C. Perfect. Your main point of entry should have been here. But to me, on how I was viewing this as it was developing, I definitely saw this as more of a ABC to complete the C wave. So this is what I like to call playing into the C wave or playing into the possible reversal or continuation, depending on what side you're looking at. But if the C wave can show a nice clear ABC within the larger C or within the area of price action we're looking at, I will attempt to take a position anticipating a either reversal in this case or sometimes a continuation of the progressing trend or the whatever trend that we're looking at, whether it's to the downside to the upside, depending on obviously what happens in the future or if what situation you were looking at. So I played into the C. So my short entry was at that 21 135 ish area. I don't remember exactly. I have to look at my phone, but it's around that 21K region. So for me, as of right now, I'm holding these shorts and I'm not going to let go of them. Possibly the only other thing I can think of, or the only way I can possibly consider going ahead and taking a entry, or sorry, taking profit on on the short that I just mentioned, is if I can find a setup to re-enter and play into the continuation of the downside. As of right now, when I zoom in, or not zoom in, sorry, when I look at this particular perspective, even if I go down to an hour, maybe a 30-minute, I don't see anything that'll allow me to play into the continuation of the downtrend. I don't have another bearish ABC. Now I have to wait for a bearish ABC because we did short up here. All right. And from there, we do have this possibly playing out to where we get a lower low, or this could easily be a pullback to a continuation. But for me, in order to take profit and re-enter, I need to see probably at the very least something like this on a 30-minute. That way, if I go to like a 1 hour, it's still pretty clear. Even if I go to the same thing with a 2 hour, it's not as clear on a 2 hour. But for me, if I can get it on the hour and it's a good perspective and a good setup for me to look at from that time frame, I will go ahead and take profit and re-enter off of a continuation setup. All right. That's the move, and that's how I'm going to approach this going forward. Just keep in mind, I'll show you, I'll highlight the levels where I'm currently shorting and where I'm currently looking to take a long off of and currently shorting as well. So the green is going to represent the long. Come on. And then the red obviously is going to represent the short. All right, and that's it for BTC. Let's go on to ETH. I'm just going to keep my eye on chat. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. Let's go on to ETH. Now, ETH is pretty much in the same boat. Oh, I just realized I can close this. There we go. ETH is in a similar, actually, well, not the same boat as BTC, but it has its own particular structure that we're going to take a look at here. So all this is an A to an ABC flat, which I don't necessarily like to identify or look for, but it does happen on the occasion, and I will acknowledge it if further price action shows that there is some sort of top or a completed structure. I will go back and say, you know what, this was an ABC flat, and then from there a continuation that's going to make up the A wave. And now, at first, before all this happened, I was looking at this ABC as the B wave. All right. Now it's the same sort of scenario, but it's just playing out a little bit different. This ABC, which I mentioned, is going to be an A. And then you have an A to a B to a C to a B, and then a continuation to a low to a C. Now, this, in my opinion, looks pretty good. I like this a lot as a much larger B wave. Because remember, guys, sometimes, even though I do point out ABCs, even though we do have a completed setup, sometimes that's just part of one wave. All right. And a lot of ABCs, if you take the idea and the concept of ABCs are just made of ABCs, it's just, I'm trying to think of a good way to word this. You can take that idea and also go in two different directions. You can easily go into the bad right or the bad path or the bad direction and take that idea and try to go to a smaller time frame and look for every single ABCs until you develop a much larger setup. That is not the ideal way to do it. That's not how I view things. How I view that statement is, yes, even though we do have an ABC, like I mentioned before, even though this is a much larger completed setup, I can also acknowledge that, hey, if we do get a pump off of this low, we can easily come back down and break it. And from there, if we break it, then that can put together a much larger, clear, more concise ABC. And to me, this is a fantastic shape. I like the way how this is playing out. Unfortunately, if you guys were trying to catch that entry that I mentioned at like the 1178 mark, you definitely had a tough time. You know, I did not get a good sleep because I kept getting woken up in the middle of the night, getting stopped out, re-entering, getting stopped out, re-entering on that point of entry. So for me, as long as ETH is above 1179, this shows a completed structure. And the next step for me is I'm looking for, at the very least, a test of that 2028. Now, I know I'm sure you guys haven't heard this or heard me say this before. Even though the structure of how this ABC has changed, it doesn't change the fact that even still, regardless of how this played out, I'm still looking for at least a higher high up here to be a little bit more long-term bearish. Now, obviously, I'm not denying that this is also a possibility, but ETH can easily just come back up to pump and then continue down all the way back down to here. If that is the case, we have to go back to a much larger time frame and say, okay, how can we dissect this? This is going to be an A to a B to a C. All right. So if we can identify this as one continuous trend, we do have a possibility for a B. And if ETH were to continue down lower, this would just be a continuation of the C. And now that you have a much more larger perspective and you're a little bit more zoomed out, you have the pieces of the puzzle lying out in front of you, it's a little bit easier to determine, hey, you know what? If that low is broken, that's going to put in a much larger structure. And from there, you have to wait for a reclaim of that level. And then you can be a little bit more bullish on the longer term. So me personally, that's what I can also view this as, but until that happens, I can't make that assumption. There's a lot of, I guess, one of the biggest issues I've seen recently is that when these dumps happen, and even though you're not on the right side of that move, unfortunately, you can get your emotions involved. And if you're trying to just play the long side and this dumps on you, not necessarily the best look. But unfortunately, for me, it's easy to keep a calm head or calm, cool mind. I'm not sitting here getting frustrated over this. I know that as long as I understand the possibilities of what could happen, to me, it doesn't really matter as long as I'm able to determine and catch a position, regardless of which side I'm playing. So let me just go over one other thing as well. Let me go over this ABC. Shoot. This is an A to a B and then a larger C. Same scenario as BTC. There is an ABC within the C. And to me, I like the shape of the structure and I decided to play it just in case that this was a much larger dump and we did form a much larger ABC, which it's something I did mention in the past and I did manage to capitalize on that trade. And I'm currently holding an ETH short as well as holding an ETH long. So at this point, whoever wins the fight, obviously I win regardless of what side I'm playing. So I have my positions in play. I'm going to let this range kind of establish itself, and let's see what happens. And then let me just change the color of this. Come on. All right. So that's all completed to me. And I'll just mark out this lower low here just in case you guys want to mark this out for yourselves too. So just in case that 1175 fails, we can definitely continue lower. And the next level for me, I mean, besides like this area of support here, I'm ultimately looking for a much larger structure to form, and I want that 880 to be broken. All right, let's go over LTC. Now, unfortunately, LTC, I did not play the short setup. I'll go over that here shortly. You have an A to a B to a C here. So that's going to be an A. You have an A to a B to a C here. And then you have, to me, this is not the prettiest wave, but it's still a C. From there, as long as you get a break above that high and LTC can fall back under, that's going to complete a much larger short setup. Now, I did not play this, and if I was playing this, I would still be holding it. I was primarily playing this long setup within the B. And unfortunately, I did not get I did not re-enter. I got stopped out, and eventually, price did come up, and I wasn't not able to re-enter, and I can't because to me this is a completed structure. I have to wait to see what this area price action from here on out does. If I see another bullish setup that develops in the future, I definitely will go ahead and take it. But until then, I'm kind of just sitting on the sidelines on LTC. Let's see. Thank you for your time. Really happy with it. You explained it very good, but I have to leave now. We'll rewatch the recording. Thanks. Oh, Jody Bob's not here anymore. Well, and if you're watching the replay, you made it this far. Thank you so much. Oh no, Jody, Jody Bob for making showing up, hanging out for a little bit. I do appreciate you. Let's go over to let's see, Cardano. So Cardano on a much larger time frame does have a completed set, or I guess you can call it a completed setup as well. I actually want to zoom out to like an 8-hour. And unfortunately, this is not the cleanest setup, but to me, this is an A to a B, and then all this is a C. And from there, there is an A to a B to a C within the C. Primarily, if that's the case, I'm still going to be looking to enter off of that 4014 level. I kind of have to see, at this point, we're kind of close back to the entry. There is this smaller ABC here. I did not enter this. Could you have played it? Yes. Me personally, would I have played it? No. I probably wouldn't have played. Well, I didn't play it, but even if I did, even if it was in front of me, I probably most likely wouldn't have played this. So you do have that setup though. And for me personally, if it gets back above that 4014, I will go ahead and take a long entry. And for me, this is gonna be more of a swing trade. I did DCA when we were in this region, so we'll have to see what happens with that. And yeah, that's pretty much it for Cardano. I think I want to go. Let's go over Solana. Wow. The last time we talked about Solana, obviously price was down here or getting close to that low, and from there, I said the only thing I can't necessarily recommend anyone trade this dump or this area price action. The only thing I will say is that you do have a setup here based off of this much larger ABC here. And that's going to complete a oh, no, I drew this wrong. Well, I mean, it's the same principle, but I wanted to draw like this. A, B, C, A, B, C, and then C. There you go. That's better. So Solana can get back above 25.67. I'll go ahead and consider taking a position just because of, I'm not sure right now because of the how things have been playing out for Solana because of the FTX news. But something to keep in mind if you do want to get into Solana, I would probably wait until you get back above that 25.68. That's about it. Actually, let's go over XRP. XRP is in an interesting situation as well. You do have an A to a B to a C, right? And that is going to complete one trend. From there, you have an A to a B to a C. And that's going to complete the second trend or the B wave. So now that I kind of showed you guys what each wave looks like, now if you could put the pieces of the puzzle together, now there's a couple of different variations of what could happen. One of the variations is that if we keep pumping, I'm going to look to see a continuation higher with the entry being when XRP can get back above that 41.75. All right. That's one variation. The other is if we zoom out, we do have an ABC to an A, ABC to a B, and then a C. If price keeps dumping, I'm ultimately looking for a break of that 28.55. Now, if price can get back above once it's broken and get a reclaim, that's going to complete a much larger setup. And for me, I might, consider buying some XRP or at least being a little bit more bullish on XRP at the very least. So until that happens, you do have the other possibility of something like this happening. I need to go back down to a little bit smaller time frame. This can easily turn into another situation as well, to where, okay, A, B, C. So this could be an A to a B to a C, and from there, this C might not be done yet. We can come down as well as not break the low, form another setup within this region, and from there you can still get a bounce. Now, how likely is that? That's probably the least likely out of the other two scenarios I mentioned. But just keep those levels in mind. Once you identify the setups, the most important thing is understanding where your key levels are. And from there, once you know, or once you can establish that, I'm sorry, I threw myself in a loop there. You can go ahead and plan ahead for the positions you want to take. As of right now, I'm going to mark out the positions in red and green, the greens being longs, the reds being shorts. Now, if a lower low is put past, if XRP continues down past 28.66, I'll have to take out this short setup here and look at it in the future, see how it develops, just because when I zoom out to a larger time frame, if that setup does want to complete, something like that, from there, that's going to complete one gigantic larger trend. And from there, I kind of have to view whatever comes after that as like a newer trend or a clean slate that does form. I'll have to see how the setup in the future plays out. But those are pretty much the levels to keep an eye on. All right. I think that's it for crypto. So if you guys have any questions, I know there's a couple of you in here in the Discord as well as here in the chat on either David Tech's YouTube or Twitch channel. Please feel free to ask me anything. We're just here going over some stuff and it's updating you guys on some of the things I'm looking at. We're just going to go over a couple more things. And, like I said, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask me at any point. But let's continue on here. Now, interesting enough, the SPY looks fantastic. All right. So let's go over the SPY quick. The S&P has a to a B to a C. Let me show you guys what that looks like. You have an A, B, C. Now the candles aren't the cleanest. Okay, there you go. Let's clean it up a little bit. You have another A, B, C, and then you have an A, B, C down here. Now, in this mind, keep in mind that I am on a 6 hour, so it's gonna look a little bit clustered. But to me, that completes one larger setup with an ABC within the C. Actually, I want to do this instead. There you go. And from there, as long as the S&P remains above 362.47, things are going to look good. We'll have to see where it wants to go or if it can reverse, just kind of figure out as price develops. But you do have this area of like, oh, that's not what I wanted. You do have this area of like resistance / support here. So I like to see this area get tested first. If the S&P could push past that, ultimately I'm looking for the high to be broken. Now it can easily come past this high and fall back below. From there, I'll be looking for a little bit more of a bearish setup, but we're not there yet. We'll kind of have to see how this develops over time. But for me, the S&P looks decent, looks pretty good. Let's go over the Dow Jones. Now the Dow Jones is actually in a good state as well. You do have the ABC that we mentioned before here off of there, and the entry would have been around like 29,000, somewhere around there, 29.5, 29.6. So as long as it remains above there, definitely you have the green light to be a little bit more bullish. We're kind of in this area of resistance. From there, if we can, or if she can put a higher high and push past this, that's going to complete a much larger ABC setup off of the COVID dump, something like this, where we could definitely see more downside. I'm not trying to get to that point yet or talk about that as of right now. We still have to see how it develops in the future, but definitely a good possibility here. AMD, it's AMD. Let's talk about ES. I'll touch on the ES quick. Same thing. They're above 3640. From there, I'm looking for a different area, this pocket, if not the high, and then we can reevaluate what goes on from there. I can definitely put in a much larger ABC setup. Now let's talk about the DXY. DXY is actually looking decent, at least from an asset. If you're looking at assets, this looks pretty good. I want to go back to like a 3-day. Now, ultimately, if the DXY can get back below 103.87, that could be definitely a call for a much larger reversal, and DXY could easily find its way. I'm not sure how it's going to get there, but I'm just drawing an example. But if we can remain below 103, it's definitely the probability to the downside is more likely, and that's going to be good for assets. So Bitcoin, stock market, everything else in general. Definitely looking good for assets. Let's go down to a 6 hour, or maybe a 3. I might have to go down to like an hourly. Excuse me. Okay. So from here, you do have an A to a B, and then this could be an ABC in itself with an ABC within the C. The only reason why I say that is, the only reason why I say that is, to me, this looks like a more completed A. This ABC looks like an A completed B. And then from there, the C is most likely extended or has an extended structure, and that's going to form an ABC there. So to me, this looks like a much larger A to a B to a C. Now, if the DXY keeps falling, fantastic. If it can get back above 109.56, definitely keep an eye out just in case. I'm sure the DXY has or BTC is inversely correlated to the DXY. From there, I would definitely say that it's not going to look good for assets if the DXY could show strength and get back above that 109. But as long as we're below, I think we have to take one level at a time, but the DXY is looking good to continue down further. We'll have to see how that goes, though. Let's see. Look at this, guys. Gold. What did I say about gold? I mentioned this a couple times. Gold has a much larger A to a B to a C. All right, that higher is that a higher high? No. So you did not get a higher high. So for me, that's the setup. And if gold can remain above 1674, that's definitely going to look good for gold. Now, the only thing to keep in mind with gold is and silver as well is that you do have a much larger bearish ABC setup in the way. So what can happen here is we can get a reversal anywhere in between here. Primarily, I would say the downside is probably a little bit more in favor, or at least probabilities are still in its favor. But I can easily see something like this happening, where you have an A, B, C, A, B, C, and then another continuation higher. And from there, that'll develop a much larger completed C wave within this multi-decade long A, B, C. So just keep in mind that for gold, or keep that in mind for gold. The much larger ABC bear structure is anything below 1921. From there, the bullish possibility is as long as it's above 1683, I'm definitely going to be holding that, or I would be holding that. And look for definitely much larger or another move to the upside. Very least to the top of this larger A here at about 2081. So just keep those levels in mind. All right, so for silver, same thing. It looks like from what I'm seeing here, if silver can continue to the upside, this is going to be an A to a B to a C. I messed up. All right, that's going to complete a larger A. This looks like it's going to want to do something like this. This is only, I'm assuming this is going to continue to the upside. And then from there, you can make a larger reversal pattern or a larger reversal setup. I kind of have to see how it develops over time. But for now, I don't see anything else on the bearish side. On a more relevant time frame, I'm going to go over the more macro ABC. But if silver can remain above 21, what was that, 50? That's going to be a bullish sign for silver, and definitely look for a little bit more upside. I don't know exactly how far it can go, but just for me, I'm considering more upside on that. Now, you do have the mother of all ABCs, which I call it, on silver. This is going back to the dawn of time, or at least the dawn of markets, I would say, where you have a gigantic, crazy, multi-decade long, this is lifetimes of price action here. I'm not going to keep that in mind as much just because this is such a massive, massive structure. I think there's a point where you can zoom out too far, just as likely as you are to zoom in too far. Just me personally, that's how I view things. Oh, Vlad, some Binance has some good publicity around. Okay, yeah, I'll definitely do BNB. And yes, I will do Tesla as well. So let's see. So just keep that in mind. Obviously, the bearish level for me to keep an eye out on is this high at 48. But like I said, because it's such a massive structure, I think there's going to be a lot of room for price to kind of dance around in that region. So that's why I'm kind of prioritizing a possible larger structure like this forming before going up, or maybe this is a bottom and then we can just keep going up from there, and then we can put in a much larger ABC like that. Definitely in the cards as well. If that's the case, look for that high to be broken. So just keep that in mind. Let's see. I want to go back to crypto quick. Oh geez, I just realized, like, why is it so tiny? Okay, so we talked about BMB before. The only thing I could say for BMB is that you do have a much larger setup here off of this ABC. Now that completed. So as long as BNB is below 337, I would be a little bit more bearish just based off what the structure shows me. Let's see what a much larger. All right, so it didn't never put in a higher high. So this is much larger ABC here. Keep in mind, this is also a larger bullish setup. So to me, if BNB can remain above 210, I think it's going to look good. But just keep that bearish setup in mind just in case. But primarily, I would say you can prioritize the bullish setup, but just don't neglect that bearish setup just in case that price can easily do something like this as well. All right, and that's based off of an ABC here, ABC here, and then eventually some sort of ABC there. So just keep that in mind. Those are the levels to look out for. I'll go ahead and mark them out one more time for you. 336.60. The major, larger macro pivot was at 211.10. All right, and then Vlad said Tesla. Well, I was in the right chart. All right, Tesla's actually doing something interesting. First of all, it's going against the rest of the traditional market, or at least the S&P, the larger funds. The only thing I can say, and what I base off of what I see here, or based off of what I see here, I do see a much larger ABC that has played out. ABC to an A, ABC to a B, and then you have an ABC here as well. So the macro pivot to get back above for Tesla is going to be that 207.24. And yes, you do have that smaller ABC there, but since the entries are going to be so close together, I'm going to prioritize a much larger setup and play the 207.25. So for me, if Tesla can get back above 207.25, definitely looks good to me. Ultimately, if that does happen, possibly a test and a push to the upside here to where we can go up to that 415 and then put in a much larger structure from there. I'm going to say it's going to be built off of this. Yeah. That's a gigantic one. Definitely keep that in mind, though, as a possibility for how Tesla can develop in the future. So, let's see. I believe that's everything. So, if you guys have any other questions for me, I'll just do it now. I'll just do it now. Oh, it's looking good, Vlad. It's looking good. All right. BMW is doing decent. So ultimately on a much larger structure, you do have this as a setup. Now, the only thing to keep in mind is this A is completed and established. What's going on here is in question, what we're going to be looking at. All right. From there, we have an A. And based off what I see here, it looks like you're going to have an A to a B to a C, and then a possible another continuation of the downside. The level to keep an eye on, BMW needs to break 84.40, above 84.40. And if it can get back, if it gets above and back below, no bueno. Sell your cars. Definitely doesn't look good in the future. But as of right now, BMW is doing decent. You did have this set up here to play into that continuation of the upside. I'll have to go to like a 2 hour to show you guys. Yeah. So you have an ABC here. So you probably would have bought at around $70, and from there, definitely rode that would have took that wave up to the upside. Just also keep that level in mind, that high, and from there we'll have to see how it develops. But you could easily do something like this. All right. So those are the levels to keep an eye out. We'll have to see how it develops in the future. But primarily, that's what I'll be looking for as of right now, especially that, it's very close to the top there. So anything else? Or do you guys have any other questions for me? Yeah, hopefully we get a at least I just want something to happen. Either we go up or we go down. I want a decision. We've been dancing a lot around in this region. I mean, obviously BTC put in that dump. The setup's there, so hopefully we can get an answer if it's gonna respect that or if we just gonna reject from there. But that definitely keeping an eye out on that as definitely the next move. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll probably end up streaming for a little bit. So around 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that's gonna be the time for me. What's that UK time? Was it 5 hours? So anywhere from 7 to 8 p.m. Guys, check out my channel. I'm gonna be streaming. It's gonna be more, it's a Friday, so we're just gonna be hanging out, not really doing anything um too serious. Obviously, we're gonna go over coins, go over TA, and allow you guys to ask me anything. Um, but yeah, we're just gonna be hanging out because tomorrow is gonna be my birthday, so I'm just gonna take it easy and relax. Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. um, yeah, from now on, Vlad, because my schedule is a little more open now. From now on, I'm probably just gonna stick to European times. Ideally, I would like to do, like I said, like around that 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time mark. So like around like 7, 8 UK London time, if that works for you. If not, I could do a little earlier. Definitely. Oh, thank you, Manny Post. I appreciate it. Sorry, someone wished me happy birthday in chat. Appreciate it. Thank you. But yeah, I'll look forward to see you guys on the next one. Like I said, I'll be streaming on my channel tomorrow. Thank you, Vlad. Thank you, David, as well, for allowing me to come on here and give you guys my thoughts and ideas going. Hopefully help you guys out in the future. Good night, everyone.